Hey, welcome back to ENL 3 Online, Intro to Literature. Today we're going to be talking about making arguments. In college, when we talk about argumentation, as you perhaps have guessed already since we've been doing some argumentative writing, we don't mean the kinds of arguments you get in with a family member or a loved one or a friend or something like that, usually. Mostly what we mean is presenting reasonable claims with evidence and explanation in order to prove or demonstrate or support some kind of particular idea. So, essay number 2, you're going to be forming a complex argument about a fictional text. So today, I want to talk about what goes into making an argument in this kind of analytical writing at the college level. So one way of talking about arguments is to break them down into multiple components. Every argument has multiple pieces that fit together to create an argument. There was this dude, Toulmin, who was a rhetorician and scholar, and he talked about one particular way of breaking down arguments. His terms that he uses, he breaks an argument down into its claim, its grounds, and its warrants. And I'll define each of those terms. Another way of calling these terms, I learned it as the 3 X's, 3 EX's. Exposition is a claim, example is your grounds, your evidence, and explanation is your warrants or your reasoning, your analysis, really. So I'm going to break down each of those terms and define them a little bit, give an example, so you can take this mode of argumentation into essay number 2. So the claim, first of all, the claim or the exposition in your argument is the main thing that you're asserting. It's the idea that you're presenting that you are going to try to argue in favor of. The claim, as I've written in some of the assignments and stuff, in a class like this should not just be a fact. It can't be a factual statement exactly. It has to be something that requires some kind of work, some analysis, some research, some thought in order to arrive at and support and defend. So a claim should be an arguable, argumentative assertion. We have always lived in the castle is about 2 sisters. That's not a claim, that's just a fact, right? Even if you get a little bit more specific. The novel presents 2 sisters who have more wealth and power than the villagers. That's getting a little bit more specific, but it's still just kind of a fact about the novel. It doesn't require us to do any analysis to figure out. Anybody who's read the novel has figured that out. So your claim, you ultimately want to sharpen into something that needs explanation, analysis, and argumentation in order to prove. So that's the claim or the exposition. That could be your thesis statement should be a complex claim, and then the topic sentences to most of your body paragraphs should probably be argumentative claims as well. Next, what Toulmin calls the grounds of an argument, or what we can also call examples, evidence. That's just the stuff, the facts, the data that is supporting your claim. So every claim needs examples or evidence of one kind or another in order to support it and help prove or demonstrate it. In our line of work, literary studies, this is usually going to be, almost always going to be, examples from the literary text that you're looking at. Specific quotations or elements or facts from the novel, from the story, the poem, etc. That's going to be the evidence. Evidence works best in an argument when it's connected to, again, a clear, assertive claim. So if you're starting out your paragraph with a detail from the text, an example, a piece of evidence, that's not yet linked to a claim, then you don't really have an argument. You're just saying something about the poem. In stanza 2, Amy Nijukumatatia looks at the villagers. That's not a claim, that's an example or piece of evidence. So you want to connect that example to a claim. Finally, what Toulmin calls the warrants of an argument, or we can call the explanation, the reasoning, is an explanation of what links the example with the claim, explaining how those things are connected, unpacking the details of the example you're looking at, analyzing the details, explaining how this one part of your argument fits into your overall thesis statement, and stuff like that. Explanation. In different kinds of argumentation and academic writing, the balance of these three different components of an argument will be different, but in an essay like this for a humanities class, analytical writing, you're going to want more explanation, analysis, than examples or claims. You'll need each three components in the essay, and probably all three components in almost all of your body paragraphs as well, but you want to make sure that you have enough explanation, analysis, in order to really unpack the ideas that you're developing and presenting. So one thing I like to do sometimes is actually highlight these three different components of an argument in my writing or in your writing, to give a visual sense, color code them, and give a visual sense of how you're balancing these three different components of an argument. So as I've kind of alluded to, this scheme of argumentation, this three parts of an argument, works at the level of the essay overall and at the level of individual paragraphs. You might kind of think of it as like those Russian nesting dolls, matryoshka dolls, where you have like a wooden doll of a lady and you open it up and it's like a smaller wooden doll of a lady and you open it up again. Argument works the same way. Your thesis statement at the essay overall, your main claim, will probably need to be broken down into smaller subclaims that occupy individual paragraphs. And so you have your overall thesis, your claim, with your explanation of why you think that in your example and stuff like that. But then at the paragraph level, you get into more detail, get more specific, and kind of break that argument into multiple components. So an example of how this would look, if I was writing my essay about Amy Nijuka Mutatil's poem Corpse Flower, since we all know it and have talked about it a lot, and you're not going to be writing about it for essay 2. Maybe my argument is something, my overall claim, my thesis is like, Amy Nijuka Mutatil's poem Corpse Flower forms a connection between how male society treats women and how human society treats non-human environments. And she does this in order to something, something, something. I haven't finished the thesis statement yet. That's my starter thesis. So if that's my thesis statement, I already see that I need to break it down into smaller components for the paragraphs. I'll need to show in one paragraph how the flower is feminized. How is this poem about women and how society treats women? So I'll have to look at in what ways does the male farmer treat the flower? Why am I reading the flower as kind of feminized? I might have to define, like, how does the farmer objectify the flower and explain that, stuff like that. So that's one or more paragraphs in my argument. Then I want to dig into how humans treat the environment in the poem and how that's similar and related to the issues of gender in the poem and stuff like that. So breaking my main claim, my thesis, into smaller subclaims that I'll tackle and flesh out in individual paragraphs. So that's going to be your goal with essay 2, to come up with ultimately a complex, layered, non-obvious argument about the novel or story that you choose to write about, and to use specific evidence, examples, grounds from the literary text in order to support those claims. And finally, to develop really robust and thorough explanation, analysis of how these examples are working, how and why they support your argument, and why this argument is intellectually significant for our understanding of the text or the ideas in the first place.